Hello, it's Kate Stillman, and I am going to go over some tips for experimenting into rhythmic eating. And the important thing is to see all this as experiments, and you don't want to take all these tips and try to take action on all these tips all at once. But what you'll notice is that one tip leads naturally into the other. So let's go over what a few of these are. One is to do a 1 week challenge, and I'm going to go over the details of the 1 week challenge in another video, but just to plant that seed into your awareness that it's a really great idea, not a novel idea, but it's a good idea to just set a time frame to see if you can have a giant leap forward. This is the opposite of doing Kaizen. Kaizen is where you do small, little 1% improvements a day, little small tweaks, improvements a day. A 1 week challenge is an opposite technique where you say, for a short period of time, I'm going to give it my all and I'm going to see what kind of results I can experience. I'm going to see what these habits, if I change a bunch of habits or I upgrade a lot of habits, maybe 2 or 3 habits just in terms of eating a few less snacks a day, in terms of going to bed earlier, being more hydrated, things we'll go over in these tips. If I just condense it into a week and see what happens, I'll have an experience. I'll have more data, and I'll be able to compare what it's like to do my old habits compared to what it's like to do the habits in the challenge. So we'll go over that later. I'm just going to plant the seed in your head now that it's a good idea to look at your calendar right now and schedule when might a good 1 week challenge of rhythmic eating be, where you're going to really deepen a healthier rhythm for your physiology. My next tip is one of the things that I found really easy when I was first starting to shift into having a longer fasting time and switching from feeding time being longer to fasting time being longer. And in this +4 goes with the 16-8 intermittent fasting rhythm. So if you Google 16/8, you're going to find there's a lot of blog posts, there's a lot of podcasts, there's a lot of great web pages that talk a lot about the 16-8. And the 16-8 is 16 hours of fasting time, 8 hours feeding time. And the reason that I like the +4 in my head is even if you're not at a 16-8, or if that's like a big, really far away goal because you're currently in a 16-hour feed time and an 8-hour fast time or whatever, is it's just a quick way to start to calculate. So say, for instance, you notice you're done eating at 9 p.m. You add 4 to 9. So 9 plus 4 equals 13, which in the clock equals 1. So it means that you wouldn't eat again until 1 p.m. the next day. Because if you're done eating at 9 and you have an 8-hour window of eating, you would be eating between 1 p.m. and 9 p.m. And all that +4 does is it starts to orient your mind and your awareness to what a 16-hour fast time actually is. And you might think, well, wow, I don't want to wait till 1 p.m. to eat for the next phase of my life, the next year of my life, the next season of my life. I want to experiment with what it's like to be done eating earlier. So then you might think like, well, tomorrow I'm going to be done. I want to be done eating by 7. So then 7 plus 4, okay, that's 11 a.m. Now I'm a little bit more in a reasonable window of time if I'm eating between 11 a.m. and 7 p.m., right? And on and on. So I've noticed over time this +4 really makes a difference for me. If it's 6 p.m. and I notice I'm done eating for the day, I go 6 plus 4, okay, that's 10 a.m. So tomorrow, it just creates a little bit of a mental note. And again, you don't have to do it. I just want you to start thinking this way right now. Just start thinking of what does a longer period of time go. So maybe you don't want to do a 16-8 ever. You're like, that's out of my interest zone, and I would rather just have a good 14-hour fast time. Well, then you would be doing 14 hours fasting and then a 10-hour window in which you'd be nutrifying yourself, just to allow this rhythmic eating, rhythmic fasting to start to take root in your physiology. So then instead of doing a +4, you would just obviously do a +2. So if you're done eating and it's 6 p.m., you would say 6 plus 2, okay, I'm going to break my fast tomorrow at 8 a.m. Or if you're done eating at 8 p.m., you would go 8 plus 2, okay, I'm going to break my fast tomorrow at 10 a.m. And then you have that 14-hour window of, then you have that 10-hour window of feeding from 10 until 8. I hope that makes sense. So just get your number of how long you want that fast time and start to just use a mental exercise of, okay, calculating plus X. So right now, it's a good idea to write down, okay, how long's your fast time? Naturally, if you look back in the past month, if you're normally done eating dinner by 8 and you break your fast at 9 a.m., then you have a 13-hour time in there. So then you would have like, okay, well, what's your next step? Do you want to have, instead of 13-hour, 14-hour? And then again, you would go, if you're doing a 14-hour, you would do +2. So just start to run that calculation and get your mind into that mental pattern. Find a buddy. There's a lot of buddies out there that also want to have more rhythmic eating. They want a better digestion. They want to experience deeper fat metabolism. They want to experience more weight loss. They want to experience deeper hydration, better mental focus, etc. So see if you can rope a friend in now into a challenge that we'll be doing in a little bit. So if you can find a buddy, just ask around. Either if you're on a Yoga Healer course, ask on the forum. If like, hey, will someone be my buddy to start to experiment more with rhythmic eating? Having a buddy is super, super helpful when you're trying to figure out how to make a change. And just having someone to check in with you, someone to help keep you accountable, can honestly make the difference between taking action and not taking action. So right now, go ahead and write down a list of 3 potential buddies that you could have on this rhythmic eating journey. People that would also be interested in just setting a feed time, fast time, and get the rhythmic eating, which times a day they'll naturally be eating, someone that you can share what you'll be doing, and someone you can check in regularly, as in daily or every other day, and how you're doing. And this will make a huge difference into shifting into getting your eating more rhythmic. A lot of people that I work with, they're eating really in sporadic hours. So some days look like this and other days look like that. And the problem with that is your digestifier just can't get into a rhythm. That's wasting a ton of energy. It's diminishing your immunity. It's unsustainable, really, over time. So find someone else that is also wanting to up their energy, up their experience of being more integrated, more rested, and buddy up. All right, a few more tips on rhythmic eating. One is to have more nutrients in your diet first thing in the morning. So packing nutrients into smoothies or into green juices early, as you're breaking your fast. I can't recommend that enough. It sets your palate for the day as well to be more nutrient dense. It sets your palate in tune with what nutrients are. So take that first breaking the fast, those nutrients that you're taking in. See if you can pack a drink with something that's highly nutritive. The other thing is, because you've had a longer fast time, your uptake of those nutrients is going to be much quicker. So that's why I really like breaking my fast with a green smoothie or with a green juice, is I'm going to experience a lot of like deep mineralization from the greens, a little bit of like quick energy from the fruit. And if you add a diversity of nutrients in there, you're going to notice that you just feel more nutrified. You're going to be like, wow, I was empty and now I'm experiencing energy really quickly. The uptake of those nutrients is usually within 20 minutes or less from smoothies or juices. Eating 2 real meals a day. I find this easier if you have a smoothie, then 20 minutes later or an hour later to have a real meal. Again, if you're aiming more towards a 16:8 or a 14:10 in terms of feeding time, fasting time, I find it's just actually much easier to switch from the 3 meals a day to 2 real meals a day. A lot of people's breakfasts aren't that nutritive. Either breakfast or lunch usually gets short shifted, and often lunch is a snack for people if they have a good breakfast and then they have a good dinner. So you might find that there's just a meal, and for many people it is breakfast, where there's either like cereal or a bagel or a muffin or whatnot. There's just no nutrients in it. And so just scrapping that and going more towards smoothies and 2 meals a day, it simplifies the amount of time you have. You don't have to think as much. I even find this evolves into 1 real meal a day, like 1 smoothie and maybe a mini meal and then 1 real meal, or vice versa. A smoothie, a real meal, and then a bowl of soup at night. That's just not this big deal. But in the transition, 2 real meals a day it's really easy, and just make sure they're nutrient dense. And now I'm going to negate the last couple tips and say, before you go through the process of changing what you're eating, think first of changing when you're eating, because this will build the deeper rhythm more quickly. And you'll notice that as you change when you're eating, you'll naturally change what you're eating, which really brings me into what'll happen is you'll notice that you start to crave fabulous fats. You'll notice your body made very naturally. For many of us, we find that what happens is as you're going into deeper cellular metabolism through the rhythmic eating, as your cells naturally detox, they also start to look for better nutrients. And often what we're missing is really good fats. And the quantity of good fats, you'll notice that you might have some shift in craving really good fat. Like you'll just want to eat the whole avocado, or you'll notice you're eating like really high quality nuts and they taste so good. And then you'll be like, okay, I've had enough. And that's the thing with fabulous fats, is that it doesn't take very much, like really about, like a pinky or two worth a day. It's not very much fat that we need in our diet, but we'll crave a much higher quality fat as we're shifting into rhythmic eating. And you might notice too that you have less desire for filler foods, like less desire for breads or for pastries, or even fats that have a lot of sugar in them, like ice cream. You might notice that you start to want less sweet and much deeper, rich fat with just like a little bit of sweet or a little bit of salty or a little bit of sour. My next tip for shifting into rhythmic eating is to nourish yourself from the outside in. Often we're used to nourishing ourselves with foods, and when we are making a shift, it's important to look for other forms of nourishment. We have all these different bodies in ourselves. We have the physical body, the energy body, the mental emotional body, the intuitive body, the bliss body, and to start to notice like what actually nourishes these other bodies. So sometimes it's things like meditation, but often it's hard to integrate that kind of practice when we're changing our diet. Often it just feels like too much at once. Whereas doing something easy like foam rolling or taking a walk or doing something more active can make a huge difference. So keep that in mind. Look for other ways of nourishing yourself. Even certain people I find are incredibly nourishing to spend time with. So book those people into your calendar as you start to make these changes. See if you can hang out more with those kinds of people, or if there's a healer that you experience deep nourishment with, schedule that person in on your schedule. Like go and pay them a visit and seek their expertise. This tip is obvious. Hydrate during fasting time. Oh, it's amazing what you'll start to notice as you lengthen the period of time between meals and between your last meal of the day and your breaking of your fast. You'll start to notice you're thirstier. Or if you're not thirstier, I still recommend to actually hydrate more than normal. Carry a water bottle around. I have 2 water bottles on my desk right now. I have 2 water, right? So I usually drink out of glass right now. I've got plastic and a bubbly water in my squirt bottle. Having hydration as the emphasis when you notice food cravings or emotional cravings during your shifting into more deeper rhythmic eating, you'll start to notice that your body has more need for water. There's an interesting stat on aging and hydration, and as we get older, our cravings for water diminish. And it's important to then, if you're in that and you don't really have real thirst, is to actually just schedule hydration. There's a million hydration apps out there. I don't have one to recommend. Just find the one with the most stars, put that on your phone, and get yourself on a schedule and start to notice how many hydration breaks you need during your fasting time. Hydration helps with a million things. I have a little image here about it boosts your brain. Your brain is mostly water. It's going to help your mental focus. You're going into rhythmic eating, your body is naturally going to start to detox. So keeping all those toxins moving out is really important in helping your body digest those toxins. So hydration becomes huge. And that's why you'll see in that top why it helps better detox is you'll just notice you're peeing, you're pooping more. When you're more hydrated, you'll also have more access to sweating. Often when people shift to eating fewer meals, they don't realize how much hydration is in the foods that they're eating. So if you're used to eating 6 small meals a day and you're going to 2 meals a day or 3 meals a day, as you're making that shift, you might not realize how much water you are taking in through food. And if you're not eating as frequently, your body's going to miss that hydration. And just 1%, I love this stat, 1% drop in cellular hydration equates to a net 10% loss of metabolic efficiency. Like you don't want that. You're trying to increase your efficiencies, especially your metabolic efficiencies, which lead to other efficiencies. So just keeping in mind that you're going to need to drink more water in your fasting time in order to feel amazing. Otherwise, what'll happen is you'll dehydrate yourself in the process. All right. The last tip I have is you're going to have more time. If you're used to eating more often, you're cleaning up after eating or spending time in restaurants, you're going to have a lot more free time with eating less frequently. and have fun with that time. Enjoy the spaciousness that opens, relax more. And notice that also starts to nourish you. Just having more time creates a lot more efficiency in your physiology. It creates more mental focus for when you do want to do something, take action. And enjoy being more active as you're shifting into rhythmic eating.